Welcome back to another wonderful episode of True Reality Disclosure. I have Dillon Macy today for an interview, and this is going to be an exciting one today. So I'm going to start with Dillon's bio. Dillon Macy is an ever-growing, shifting healer, mentor, energy clear, grid worker, guide, guardian with a true heart of leadership and service. With those, he is a many-faceted artist, mostly a musician and writer, digital art creator, and drawing. Though an overall open, infinite creator to whatever he feels guided and leads himself to support his mission, quest, purpose, destiny, and life. Living as a wayshore for humanity through his devoted serving in the journey of core soul, true whole self embodiment, and living ascending human mastery. He has and is walking, breathing, present through many levels and stages of his mastery, healing and expansion in simply choosing wholeness and embracing his multidimensional self-spectrum humanness to live his highest potential as a unified human and being, ever expandingly conscious and loving in creation with self and all life. This is absolutely beautiful. I love this. All of his life, he has watched, observed, become increasingly intimately aware and intentional with the inner-outer energy relationship of reality life, both personal and collective in sovereign leadership. It is foundationally his purpose through his living devotion to ultimately assist and guide the healing, remembering, shifting, up-leveling, all-encompassing, embracing, and reunifying of others as he does himself, helping everyone remember and embody their true core source soul selves, embodying fully, infinitely, expandingly, uniquely who they truly are. All that creatively to hone in and say he's being real in healing self-love to be his best version of self and helping others to do the same. I'm sorry, my tongue's getting a little twisted. My apologies for this. Seeing that the core and root of humanity's liberation, sovereignty, and evolution lays within his mission and reminding the essential mastery within the human Exsphereience. All that creativity to hone in and say he's being real in healing self-love to be his best version of self and helping others to do the same. Dillon is providing healing, coaching, guiding, mentorship services for the individual and groups. You can find him and his work through his social Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, where he does live streams, videos, writings, and other posts. He has a Patreon available, a podcast, and website coming soon. Boo! Until the website, he is joyously open to receive direct messages on these sites for booking sessions for any other options. And these sites I'll have at the end of the video, as well as in the description in YouTube as well. So, all right. I apologize. You had some amazing stuff in there and I couldn't even get it out properly. So I apologize for that. What a beautiful autobiography, biography.
Yeah, it's kind of long. Maybe I'll probably shorten that in the
future. It was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. So everyone, this is Dillon Macy, and I actually met him just before Camp Disclosure through some of the chats actually in there, and I don't know. I think there was maybe a couple conversations. And I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. You just have to be like, you have to see him from a distance. You can see his light so bright. Like he's an amazing human being. And then I got to meet him at Camp Disclosure. And it was a beautiful, beautiful meeting. It was a beautiful event. There's so much happened there. It was incredible. But I had the pleasure to meet with him, talk to him on a personal one-on-one basis, and it was amazing. So today I wanted to bring Dillon on here and talk a little bit about his energy work or energy manipulation aspect. He has great insight in this level of understanding, and I figured this would be a beneficial topic to start to bring awareness to. So, hi, Dillon.
Hey there, Jason. I'm so honored to be here, brother. Thank you so much for all that love. You're amazing. I love you so much.
See what I mean? See what I mean? So I guess to get the ball rolling, let's maybe talk a little bit about what energy work is, and let's kind of unpack just that term, that idea, that concept in general, and then we can roll from there.
Sure, totally. So energy work. There's a lot to it. Just like anything, there's many layers and levels. When you really simply start opening yourself to want to feel, want to experience, want to know what's going on. And for me, it starts with consciousness, just your living awareness in your body, and in that becoming gently aware of your own energetic essence that is simply another layer or aspect of your body. But just like your physical, we have our energetic bodies as well, anchored and enmeshed with the physical, and as well as and just working with the awareness and the feeling of the, I guess, the living life force essence of all things, of other forms of life, just as much as yourself, is how I've like really opened myself to connect with other people or other forms of life authentically, to feel them. And through that journey has allowed me to become a little bit more aware, has allowed me to become more aware of the consciousness and the energetic essences that flow between us in multiple layers of communication and connection beyond just like speaking or doing things physically. But what energy work is being able to work with like the subtle essences, the subtle energetic, the subtle essences of things that I guess you could say are just at like a maybe higher frequency or higher vibration that's not exactly physical. But if you tune into it enough in some ways and cohere yourself mentally, consciously, emotionally, and basically just slowing your brain waves down, you can start to see how some of those aspects really, you can see and experience them more as they play in with the physical and become physical in a sense, just in like another level. It's weird, but there's different aspects of ways you can look at this and tap into it.
I love that. Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Well, just on the interconnected part of it, there's the movie Avatar, for an example. There's a part in it where the scientist is taking a sample. We got to take a sample, and then she starts to describe the connections from the trees, or from the roots of trees to other roots to the trees, is more connections than the human brain. And myself, I believe there's always truths in a lot of movies or shows that is actually relevant to Earth right now. And I do believe that the interconnectedness of nature itself is vastly way more than what we can even comprehend, really. Or maybe some people like yourself fully are on board with this, but to find how much communication there is all around us all the time, it was mind-blowing for me to come on board with that. And I was like, holy cow. So having your background and your understanding of how you started to, how did you kind of start getting into energy work, or what was your aha moment per se to learn about this?
Oh man, that's a big question. Let's see. Okay, where are we going with that? Oh man, yeah, there's so much. Let's see. When did I really start with it exactly? I feel like I could go back to all the way even around like 2012 more so. I think that's where like a more beginning point of my awakening began more so because I feel like all of us, but myself, throughout my life, there's various layers of awakening that come in more of like your soul and true self embodiment that just comes through naturally as you devote through that. And I guess I feel like in some essence, well, I have like throughout my whole life, even since a little kid, been aware of some things so that I can just begin working with that and honing myself, cultivating myself to just become a better version of me, and eventually led me to become more aware of the subtle energetics in a greater way, in a, like a more conscious cognitive being able to grasp onto way, I guess. Because before that, I was, and I feel like all of us are anyway. It's just you could maybe get to a point where you're like, okay, wow, what's actually going on here? I want to really understand it more than just like naturally what's going on in these many layers and levels of our bodies, of all life, and in communication exchange of energy. And so, like around somewhere in 2012, I think it was, is where I started like more so feeling or being aware of like energies in a way of, hmm, yeah, somewhere around there where I would really honor the energies of other people as well as myself and how we can ground in and really connect and communicate in a very clear way. From there, it led me to become more aware of the feelings of subtle energetics and how things can flow in like in a relationship exchange and connection. And then also around that time, I began more so visually seeing like lights and energies and things like that, or in that form of energy, seeing like, I guess, yeah, like lights sometimes or flashes and things. I'm like, oh, what's that? What's happening? Is that like what they call like energy and stuff, basically? And I remember there was one point I started seeing that within like a whole forest. It was really cool. Um, Seeing like this pulsating kind of light throughout an entire forest. And I was like, what is that? What's happening? And I was walking with a friend at the time. I was like, do you see that? What's happening? And I was like, oh, it's just must. And like intuitively at the time, I just immediately knew, oh, it must be like the living like essence of the forest and like life itself and like the earth's pulsating energy. I was like, okay, cool. That's amazing.
When you say, sorry, when you say that you saw pulsating, like, did you see it pulsating like around the trees, kind of like an aura almost, would you say? Or
Yeah, I think it's kind of like that. It's basically seeing like the auras of the tree, which is something since then more so I've been able to really tap into and see around, yeah, trees and anyone if I
huh.
allow myself to tune into that, any form of life really. And yeah, so it's kind of like around their aura and it's just like this blue, white, like pulsating flash. I was like, oh wow.
Oh wow, wow, that's so after you got to that stage of awareness, seeing that, um, what kind of drew you into working with it? What are some things that you kind of maybe do or prepare yourself to do in order to once you see it to start working with it in a sense?
Yeah. So it kind of continued on the years after that. At those times, I was just a teenager. So I was also like going through school and whatnot and everything else, but getting to a point where things are becoming more subtle that I could tune into. But so mostly it kind of started it through like relationship interactions with people and how I can just, like I was saying before, just really honor subtle layers of energy of how we can bring through like the greatest communication, greatest clarity of presence with each other and bring like a sense of safety to each other so we can truly be open in our whole selves, like our whole human selves, and be okay to share anything to help each other along and or to help them along in their journeys. So it kind of started more so like in that aspect, using it like a healing way, in that simple way, where you're helping others to clear like their minds, their emotions, and or make different changes and steps in their lives by being able to tune into like the subtle energetic emotions and feelings with someone. So really, it just kind of started through the social interactions. And then from there onward, as I started like years later, maybe around 2015 to 2016, 2017, around there, going more into where I was getting into meditations. And I guess it's a funny thing to explain. I guess I just started doing it. Like I just started tuning into my heart and like whatever these energies are, and just started exploring to figure out what things were and how I can bring myself like into alignment or to center like that. And eventually I began learning yoga as well, which helped me to open my body more. I felt like that was something I was meant to be doing at the time to help, because that's like another aspect too, to keep our bodies in the most healthful alignments and openness. So like something like yoga or just exercise, and then with the meditations or like Qigong helps to open all those channels so that things become flow clear and become more aware of it. So like it probably started around there more so, where I was just doing meditations and yoga around 2016, 2017. And then onward from there, I went into Qigong, which is more so helping me to tune in. But I was already tuning into it before that as well, which was basically just sitting and opening myself to like my truest core essence of being, I guess you could say. Like the terms I use often, I guess, just your soul and what it means to really embody who I truly am. And through that has helped me to open and become aware of it more, aware of like chi and life force and living essence, and how to that plays in with our emotions and the way we feel, the way we think, and allowing those to flow clearly throughout our bodies to different layers and levels. But yeah.
That's awesome. There's
I know it's a little scattered. I'm trying to like, okay, how
no,
can I
no,
condense this down for the space?
there's so much beautifulness in there, and there's so many different directions we can go with that for sure. I do plan to have you on again. We'll do multiple topics. What I would like to focus on just for this one is more the energy work. So it's a beautiful progression that you shared with us of how you kind of started getting into it. So if you had any words of advice or someone, or words of advice or wisdom, I should say, for anyone starting to get into this on their own terms, is it just kind of like a meditation, or how would you kind of maybe suggest someone to start getting into this kind of stuff?
Hmm. Getting into the subtle energetic tunings. Qigong is always a very good one. If anyone's ever heard of Qigong, that involves body movement as well as really deep connecting with your body and your energies. And slowly you begin becoming aware of your chi and the subtle energetic aspects of your being through those practices. That's helped me greatly, even more so from those points. But for me, like kind of like I said, I just started doing it in a way of wanting like my mind, my body, and consciousness to be clear, I guess. So I just started tuning in with meditations, with whatever I could find here and there, little guided meditations or doing group meditations online with others. Helped me to begin a tuning into my own as well as like shared group space energies. Like when you're in group shared space energies like that, when you're all focused on doing one thing, things are much more tangible. They're much more, I guess you could say, expanded or more present. You can feel them more so. And from there, you can then begin working with the feelings and things you receive in those spaces. That's kind of where I had started as well, in group meditation spaces. And where would I really guide people to start? Tuning into your heart and opening your heart and finding and feeling, okay, what's the truest core, like soul essence of me? Who am I truly? 'Cause from there, everything begins just opening up, honestly. That's kind of just where I started. Everything begins opening up. Things begin clearing out as you want to be more of who you truly are and your core center, and what it means to be like a whole true human being or whatever you feel that is. and just being the best version of yourself. Honestly, like that's like the really beginning of my journey, how things started, and just everything starts opening. And then from there, I find like what in the world I can be a part of and help with that's in alignment with with my heart and what I truly feel within me to be doing. And that honestly just starts opening up naturally for all of us. But it's a funny thing to really like say what practices to do. I guess that would just be like tuning into your body with qigong or meditations, however you can, just truly devoting, be like, okay, even if I have no idea what I'm doing, what I'm looking for, and what I'm feeling, just sitting and breathing with your body is all you need to do, really.
Oh, and I know I kind of doubled on that question. I realized it after. I apologize. But yeah, I love how yeah, the heart aspect, getting into the heart, that seems to be a very, very big thing to do. And we're so programmed to stay here that being up here and not aware of anything else, you can't get into that connectedness. Like you're not aware of what your body's trying to tell you, what the surroundings are trying to tell you. Like or even your guides and everything. It's all shut off when you're up in here. So transferring to your heart, I loved how you said that. It was like, yeah, get in your heart space, because then you can flow more. You're not bogging yourself down with all of these thoughts. So I really love that. So it's, yeah, calming your mind in a sense, feeling your heart, and kind of making all your actions from your heart kind of deal.
Yeah, definitely. That's it's such a big thing for us to really get more into our bodies that way, and let our minds align with that. Let our minds align with our hearts, and our hearts really is the thing that brings the guidance for where the mind should direct us. You know.
Gotcha. Okay, so now okay, so let's so now in the state, let's pretend that you're about to do some energy work right now, for an example. So you're in a state of calmness, you're in your heart space. So after that, is there any insights you can kind of give, like how does it feel to kind of be doing this energy work? Is it more just appreciation or gratitude in a sense, or is there anything that you're kind of thinking about, or heart moving around, for lack of a better term? Sorry.
Yeah. So, okay, when I start tuning into energy work that way, what I feel is I begin opening my heart greatly and expanding throughout my body. And in that, I start feeling like the subtle electric magnetic like sensations throughout my whole body, like those little vibrations, or tinglings that you'll feel when you get energy flowing. And I'll feel that all throughout my body, through my hands. And as I expand that like into my toroidal field, my auric field of energy, which is a whole other thing I know it's opening up. But so like in the case of doing energy work on somebody else, I can just focus into how I envision energy, which is usually just like balls of light or like cloudy essences of light or energy. It's a funny thing to explain. And depending on what I'm doing, like for in a healing for somebody or in a clearing, can bring that to specific places of their bodies or throughout their whole body or however, and just light up those spaces and just think and feel like the essences of what clear means, what healing means, or like whatever it is we're doing, like clearing tension or something, but into deeper aspects of where all that goes. And I really integrally put all of my conscious awareness into those, and I feel it in like the essence of that light opening, expanding, and allow that feeling of whatever that vibration is to come through my body. And usually it just comes through like those tinglings or like a massive tension release in your body, and you just open up and feel much calmer and clearer and more peaceful where you are. And from there, so you can get deeper into working with the subtle energetics, because the more like open and clear and relaxed we are, is the more sensitive we become to all of that. Hmm. Yeah, sometimes I use like rings of lights or just balls of light or things like that to scan through somebody's body or through my body to clear some energies, stuck emotions, stuck energies through the body and let things free flow clearer. Um, yeah, sometimes like kind of like a sparkling kind of light to help dissolve specific stuck energies and emotions and things away, just the same. But it can get very deep also into other aspects of like healing work with energy work as well. But like just the same when it's not just healing work, working with somebody else, if you're just like expanding into the environment where you are, into other aspects of nature, into elements, even into like your food or water, and feeling a lot of us are open and aware to working with like blessing water or food and being thankful with so much gratitude with that. And what I do from there is I allow my consciousness to expand into like basically like the molecular structure of like a food or water or something as an example, to where we're like or like any aspect of nature or something like that, where you really start feeling a part of it. And from there you can bring your conscious, you can bring anything through that in your conscious awareness within those things, like a blessing or a clearing, or asking it to be in alignment with its original templates of creation from source, from God, so that it may nourish your body, like in case of food or water, may nourish your body to its complete, whole, greatest, best, and you are able to receive it. So I guess what I'm saying there is expanding your, allowing your like consciousness to expand from your body and go into things, which is a simple practice of just doing it and just seeing how you can articulate that and feel into other forms of life or other like matter around you, to get more of an essence beyond like just the physical, more of like a reading beyond just the physical, like what these things are, and then how you can work as well in that with just like the conscious essence, which then brings the energy, because like energy itself is really just consciousness and it's just your awareness. And like what you put into it is what it becomes, I guess you could say. And yeah.
That, that's beautiful. Because Dr. Masuru, yeah, Masuru Emoto Masuru, um, he did a water experiment, freezing water, and playing different musics, talking verbally, and then he freeze the water to see what the cellular structures were. And the differences between like heavy metal to classical music was phenomenal. The classical music, frozen water, had a beautiful signature to it, whereas the heavy metal was more of like, not really, it didn't look good. It looked sick in a sense, the structure itself, as well as telling the same glass love or I hate you. Both of those experiments, and one completely neglected, didn't even say anything to it. And the structures of all those were, it was blowing my mind to see, holy cow, these are, I think he did these over a week or 2 weeks or something along that line. Like it wasn't a very long process. Like you're not talking years and years and years of doing this. This can happen right now in your body. And I loved how you mentioned that you have more influence on these energies than what most people think. Especially getting into this, there's so much information, there's so many different terms, there's so many different paths and areas that sometimes it can get confusing and overwhelming to people entering this and be like, well, what's this and what's this and what's this, where a lot of these terms are, they kind of mesh all together in a lot of ways, but they still have their differences about them, but it's not as overwhelming as it may seem at the beginning. And I loved how you said it, just get into it. So in that aspect, I think it might tie into a little bit of self-love. Hey, I look at myself in the mirror and say, I love you, man. And that in itself, I could feel a vibration just off of that. But it's learning to appreciate everything. And if you can't appreciate your own vessel, then how can you spread that out to nature? How can you spread that to others? Do you know what I mean? So I loved how you kind of wrap that together. So
That's where it all starts. That's where things get deeper and more real, when you truly start to love yourself in all layers and level of your being and bring yourself back home more and more. All the layers and levels, all the woundings and traumas, beginning to heal those, bring yourself back into unity and loving yourself and supporting yourself in your highest potential and success of just being and living your life from your true core being. That's where it starts. And just having that intention is like the most important thing, really.
Well, I wanted to, so we can, yeah, the healing aspect, I we could even have another interview on, to be honest. But one thing that I remember distinctly from Camp Disclosure was you were doing something called grid work, and that has intrigued me. As I don't know very much about it at all, except for some sort of energy work. Would you mind going into that a little bit and a little bit more, maybe more what that means or what is involved in that?
Sure. Yeah, grid work. Wow. Yeah, that's a very, very fun one. Still expanding into it more myself, but essentially it's kind of like just the same as feeling into the energetic body of yourself. You're feeling and expanding yourself to the energetic body with the earth. And in within our energetic bodies, within our physical bodies, we all know of our chakras and energy centers and things like that. And just beyond the primary seven, there are many more specific energy centers around our energy bodies and within our physical too. And the earth has them as well, different like node points of energies where basically like the consciousness of all life, of the earth herself, of humanity, can anchor in and connect and flow like along these points, basically like you're living as one part, and flow along these points and meet up at certain specific nodal points, and then kind of be shared and connected and expand out to other places by following basically like, and it's almost like there's a structure to the energetic flow within things that allows the energies to actually travel upon and be transferred or be communicated or something. And just as much as our own chi and life force, the earth has her own that flows along those points. And so essentially grid work is connecting into those, and there's many different like layers and levels of the grids as well, like in the earth or like kind of in the atmosphere and a little bit beyond as well, how I've experienced it, where just the same as like healing ourselves and loving ourselves to the max, we're helping Mother Earth to heal and clear as well. Healing and clearing the collective consciousness of humanity and the energies and all the different things of the past that need to be cleared out, that maybe was not supporting her in the best, and healing those as well, so that energy can flow freer and be shared around the planet, so things are more clear and coherent to support life in a greater way of like prosperous abundance and all of that. Yeah. There's a lot that goes into grid work. But I guess that's like, hopefully that's somewhat of a clear overview at the moment, but
that was beautiful. No, I very much appreciate that. Because there is one thing that I started to realize as one starts to make the effort to go inside and start cleaning their energies within their own selves, it's easier to start seeing the cycles per se. Like the body would be, and the earth would be a larger version of the body, and then Milky Way galaxy would be a larger version of the body. Like there's so many repeating cycles just on larger scales and smaller scales as well. So it yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but sorry. Well, I guess what I'm saying is it starts with going in first and doing this work, and then you'll just kind of feel that progression within yourself to start doing these things like the grid work, for an example, helping the earth, the environment, and everything along that line on an energetic level. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I love everything you just said. It's so perfect. So good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and that's always the first and foremost thing, is to work with ourselves and healing, because that in itself is grid work. Because within the interconnectedness, just like you said, of everything and all these different representations of our body in different scales, basically in different forms, just working on ourselves is like all we need to do first, and then it'll start clearing everything else as that connects, within the collective consciousness and shared like spirit of humanity, as well as the earth, and then galaxy, universe. That's it. But we can also go more intentionally once we're at a place where we realize, okay, I want to start like expanding into these other ways of grid work. You can actually start working directly to help heal specific things, maybe in a like more accelerated sense, or where it needs more of like attention, more kind of conscious attention to help things along, I guess you could say. But yeah.
So it begins with you and me and everybody. Right? Well, I guess more about there. It is interesting. There's one gentleman. I had my first apartment, and I wasn't at all into this understanding. I was very much up into here. But this one gentleman had mentioned one conversation. Hey, if you want to feel something cool, dumb down your brain, activate your heart, and activate your gut. I was like, what? Is there a button? Like, what do you do? What do you mean? And then he's like, the best way was think of a memory that had your heart going, your first love, your first kiss, or something that had, you can feel your heart pumping, in a good way, benevolent way. And then the same thing with the stomach. Recall a memory when you had butterflies in your stomach or something along that line. That's in a benevolent way again. But once you have those two memories and you can feel your heart pumping and you can feel the butterfly feeling in your gut, focusing on those two memories actually dumps down the brain, because now you're focusing all of them. And once you got all of them focused, it didn't take very long. How you describe that vibration in the arms and the whole body, that energy vibration, it happened to me right away. Like, I was like, I shocked myself. Like, what is this? I'm like, is there a train going by or something? What's going on? But it really just blew my mind to what was actually happening, and that unlocked for me more questions, and kind of started driving me down the energetic aspect of this. So how you were mentioning, yeah, that same feeling within the energy body, I couldn't, that's the memory that came to my mind. And I even talked to this gentleman maybe a year later or something, no memory of this conversation whatsoever. It was one of those, in that moment, information just passed, and he has no recollection of it at all. So it was pretty interesting experience, but it really came to mind, like, your heart is more than just your heart. Your gut is more than something that you just, that digests your food and water. Like, there is so much more to these aspects of our body than what we really give the attention to or the awareness to. So yeah, I loved how you did mention how it felt in your body as well, because having that physical relationship to what you're doing on a meditation level can help a lot of people understand, oh, hey, I'm feeling that same vibration. Oh, these other people were talking about it. Oh, okay. So that's why I kind of like to bring it more to the lower 3D physicality aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's everything. That's like the whole name of the game too, is the embodiment of these things. You know, these things happen. A lot of them happen anyway on like the higher dimensional, like higher vibrational level. But to actually begin to embody it more tangibly with your physical is everything. So then we become more consciously aware to work with that and bring ourselves in like our greater health, vitality, flow, and coherency of being. Much more. You know?
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, if so, at this point, before our interview, you had actually started talking a little bit about movements as another method of energy manipulation, or sorry, energy work. So could you go into a little bit more into that aspect, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Movements. Yeah. As I mentioned before, Qigong is a definite good one to help bring in those tangible body movements with the energies and marry them together in a balance. For me as well, it has expanded from there, where I've learned a little Qigong as well as just going into it intuitively with myself by just opening up and moving your body to whatever you are intuitively feel in a way that you want to be moving, like it wants to be moving in whatever form and whatever way, to channel that chi and that energy, to channel like spirit and your whole living essence in some ways beyond just the physical. Like for me, it has been with Qigong, or it's been around other martial art types, I guess, kind of like basically Tai Chi or things like that, where that's the way that opens up for me to move with my body, is kind of like martial arts sort of forms, which is the reason that they are these forms to begin with, is to move that integral living life force energy into through the physical body to maximize what we're doing physically. You know, so you're combining those together as one, and it brings a great magnitude of like basically the of what you're putting into what you're doing. And yeah, through so as we really just start allowing ourselves to tune into our bodies and our energies and move with us, we'll discover different ways to move to channel those energies. And throughout many ages and many different cultures or tribes or like cycles of humanity, or all the teachings we find nowadays with yoga or qigong or meditation or any form of martial arts, like I was saying, will discover how there are people that used to do this so much so in harmony with their energies and their bodies that they would also expand that into the energies of nature around them and the elements as well, and learning how to cohere and move and harmonize with them in a way that eventually, as you work with that, gets to such a harmony that you can basically develop like elemental bending. And if for people who don't know what that is, it's basically like telekinetics working with the elements, but by really harmonizing with the specific frequency or the vibration of different elements and the teachings and energies that they have to bring through for us, as we have bring through with them with our great loving openness to connect and work together. And so like when I guess like the reason I bring this up is there's a lot of like body movement that is involved with that along the lines of like martial arts. Yeah, the cool though, another thing to though too, it doesn't have to be so much of like physical movements like that in martial arts, or yeah, in that way. Sometimes it can also be so like qigong often uses very subtle energetic or subtle movements with the energies. I'm sorry, subtle physical movements. Sometimes there's more energetic, I guess you could say, like more physically moving, bigger movements, but a lot of the times it's very subtle. And in those teachings, it also shows that any movement basically of our body is always channeling an essence of our chi or energy and consciousness and intentions through that as well. As you start to really tune in and slow down with your body and feel that, experience it, you notice how within that you're channeling those intentions, those thoughts, those feelings, and how it connects to also your environment around you and affects others and other people and their thoughts and like feelings, and how things can flow together or flow against each other and help each other to be clearer and more whole and more loving with each other. At least how I've experienced it as somewhat of an overview. But so I realize I'm saying a lot right now. I can take some space here for a second.
No problem. That was absolutely beautiful. Just before we actually got onto recording here, we were actually talking about the last Airbender, the cartoon series, and in that there's a lot of motion. There's a lot of motion from the Airbender, the waters, the earth, fire. They're not just picking up something and throwing it. They're moving their bodies, and then, like you so beautifully said, it was almost like a telekinesis aspect where their movements altered the surroundings in a sense to the specific element that they were doing. Now, the movements of the earth were different from fire and water. They all had their specific kind of movements, but I believe a lot of these shows and movies have little bits of truth hidden inside of them. And it was beautiful how you mentioned that movement and the telekinesis aspect, but also the martial arts understanding in Qigong, right? So, am I saying it right? Sorry.
That's okay. Qigong.
Qigong. Yeah, brain fart. But yeah, there is a difference in the movements, and even in that cartoon, you can see. I think it was the fire was more almost aggressive in a physical nature, almost in some aspects. Still smooth, but like it just seemed more aggressive per se. Whereas like some of the other one, like air, for an example, wasn't as aggressive. So there is. I liked how you kind of mentioned both of those aspects, because you don't have to just do martial arts. You have lots of other options as well. But there is, I do believe, like it really does make sense that some of those movements could benefit a lot of this energy work. So I'm really happy that you brought that up. That was amazing. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, there's so much more I'm getting from everything you're sharing right there too. Actually, that's cool.
Share away.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, I guess within all those very specific movements, you're doing them because it's basically like almost following a specific coding within like reality, I guess within like the fabric of the energetic matrix of reality and the structures within that. So what we're doing is we're kind of like mirroring that with the movements of our body to flow with the chi and with the energy of those different forms of life, which is the elements as well as our own, and bring like a balance or harmonization together. So you basically become like one with like the atomic or like molecular structure of those elements, and with that, by that, within your body, of which you also have within you. It's like it's kind of like following like a puzzle piece or like a maze of specific energy flow through those movements is kind of what I'm feeling.
That's all. That was beautiful. I love that. My understanding is the consciousness of our bodies is separate, for lack of a better term, to what these vessels are. And I believe these vessels are a combination of the four elements of earth, and then the consciousness is kind of like our driver behind the seat in a sense. So having that connection with all the elements, yeah, I don't know, it was beautiful how you kind of married it all together there. So
thank you. Yeah, so I guess like into like the whole essence of energy work, it's kind of like doing exactly that, but you're simply opening yourself to experience what it'd be like to feel just like, almost, I guess the energy is kind of like the blueprint somewhat within the physicality to what like things come together as within the energy and crystallize into the physical form in these like 3D worlds. So with that, we're just working with basically what is the non-physical elements, which is almost like in some ways the blueprint or the template sometimes of these things as well. That's another aspect to energy work,
Okay.
but it ties in. Yeah. And I feel like kind of with the grids as well, like the grids of the earth, or even beyond, like whatever you're working with, even like the grids of our bodies, we're just working with the structure for the energies to flow, which I mentioned before, but it's basically like it's what houses together the energies that then come together to make up our physical, like I said before as well. So as we work with the subtle energetics more, or like the spirit of things, or the spirit essence or energies of things, because like in the beginning of my journey, that's how I would equate it, was just like spirit, basically just energy, or speaking of it in that way, like, or like when I was connecting with all my guides, just call them like spirit guides and things like that. You're connecting into like, or when we begin working with that, is what also brings together like the health and vitality of our physical bodies. So like that's always been a key focus for me for a lot throughout my life, just as I opened up more though in awareness, was working with like the higher dimensional or like more subtle energetics of things is really like the integral key, or the integral like part to bring ourselves into whole healthful alignment more. And then from there, as we work with more like physical actual exercise and movements and things like that to take care of our bodies, or eating food and whatever, things are able to flow clearer, and or has more of an effect, like I kind of said before, like a magnitude of effect to what you're doing. So like for me, doing like this energy work as well, and then going into physical exercises, expanding that way to work with my body and whole healthfulness, I've noticed how me doing the work, it has a greater effect. So like I'm able to, I don't know, I guess you could say like build muscle quicker or something, because I've worked with the energetics or like the psionic elements beyond like kind of preceding the physical, you know. It's funny, it happens, and then it's a cool thing to experience.
That's amazing. That's so, oh man, there's a lot in there that was like ding 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 ding. But the just the last part there, you said uh, how you said it makes your body stronger, or something along that line there. And it's like, well, these, even though it seems like these are physical bodies, they're not. It's an energy. There's a whole lot to it, but it's an energy body with trillions and trillions of agreements to be this, in a sense. So getting that level of understanding of, or even that level or higher too, you start to realize it's like, well, I don't need to do as much physical stuff because it's not really physical, but it's like, in a sense it is, but it isn't. So I loved how you touched on that. That was beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I loved how you just touched onto that, speaking the way of like the energy manipulation helps into then in a sense like manipulating our bodies into different forms as well, in different states of health and being, and so like when we're like manipulating energies or things like that, all that really means is we're harmonizing, connecting in, and moving with consciously and awareness what is within that connection, I guess. And yeah, it does, it absolutely starts to change your physical body in so many ways as you expand consciously, expand energetically aware. It's so fun, nice journey. Yeah.
No, that's also, I don't, the people that I talk to or whatever, one of the main things I'll say is self-love. You got to love yourself. And the importance behind that is to me is big, because if you can't love your own being, then spreading your love elsewhere, it isn't as conducive. Rather than loving yourself, as soon as you can start loving yourself, then your vibe is like, boo. There's so much more you can do with that energy, because you're giving your own battery it's full charge. Now it can go and charge other things. Lack of a better term, but you can still do some of this stuff without having a full love for your body, but it's just so much harder. It's difficult. So yeah, I don't know, that self-love and getting into that connection, it really seems like you get there, you can start doing all of this amazing stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, there's infinite. We're like within our truest human potential, within consciousness, within the psychic realms, or psionics, how I like to call it, which is, it's not just mind and brain, it's your heart, it's your gut, it's everything. It's your whole full spectrum of consciousness. Bringing yourself into alignment. Yeah, there's our infinite potential is just that. We can do anything. We're literal creator beings. And the more and more we begin to hone in on what that means through our own individual journeys and remember who we truly are and honor that and honor all of ourselves, like you're saying, like the truest, highest love, like just absolute love, all encompassing everything as the core and as the foundation to literally everything to be in whole harmony and unification. Everything begins to open up, and we realize more and more as we recognize and remember us as creator beings, as literal like God source fractals in our souls, embodied and remembering and bringing more and activating into every cell of our bodies. We realize how we can start working with these energies more and more and more, where in a way where we'll start actually being able to, like those shows, you know, like Last Airbender, we are connecting in with matter, with physical forms around you in a way of like harmonious energy manipulation. And really through that, it's just recognizing, of course, like we've heard so much, the oneness of everything, but like the literal interconnectedness and the sharing within all that. Like we know the individuality of each of us and of each form of life, but there's also like a specific meeting point, like a 0 point source point, I guess you could say, where things become together as one. And there's so much infinite, all-encompassing love within that. So then you begin working through from that point of communication of that mutual love and appreciation, that reverence, that honor of each other. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. There's are you familiar with Dan Winter?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, that's, I just watched one of his last episodes. He had, I don't know if they were classmates or students or something along that line, but yeah, he really, I don't know, his terms are like 20 extremely long words. That's the actual title of like this energy stuff. Which, I mean, don't get me wrong, this guy is very on track on this scientific. I think he has a great science spiritual mix of the both. Maybe still a little bit more science, but it's a beautiful blend of both of those. And when he starts in the last one, he was talking about the implosion of a cell and how, yeah, that's how it starts in a sense. And he even showed that the first, once the egg, the sperm cracks the egg, the shape of it looks like an implosion of that energy to split to the next one. And that's, if you can imagine that within your body to get to that level, and a lot of this is done by how you're describing it here, is calming your mind, getting out of your head, getting into your heart space, but having that energy flow through you. So there's so many beliefs, and society brings a lot of almost negative blockages into the body, all these false beliefs that really don't exist. So once you start clearing all of those and getting rid of that, your vibration starts to act in that similar implosion aspect that Dan Winter was mentioning. So on a science scale, Dan Winter. For great stuff, Dillon.
I love that. I love that you bring up Dan right now. I recently had watched something too a few weeks ago of his, a little bit longer now, 4 weeks ago, and, of his, where it just spontaneously came up via somebody else that I follow, who he happened to be like within that group that was like recording at the time and doing this live. And I was like, oh my God, I actually, that was the first time I really have looked into Dan Winter more so. Like I've known about him for years and years, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go check out his stuff. Oh my God, I gotta go check out Dan. I just never did for some reason. And so that came in, I was like, oh, this is so great. And I love the way, yeah, he brings things together and really brings like a grounded structure to all the energetic work. You know, he really puts all the science to it. For me, that's what I was feeling, and it was helping me in the moment. I was like, oh wow, you're helping me like really to ground in and reach through and see so much more. Thank you.
And
It was cool.
He has, and I love the science-based background to it, but there's always still like, okay, what do I do with that information now? And that's where it's like people like you help connect that bridge. It's like, okay, so all of what he's talking about starts with going inside, you know, or starts with a meditation, clearing your mind. So these aspects help support that scientific evidence per se. Do you know what I mean? It kind of gives it a path forward per se.
Yeah, exactly. And they begin to harmonize and balance together, so they help each other grow and expand. Especially in the scientific realm, and like and I guess in like the more just expanded mental way of viewing things, you know, expanded brain way of seeing things. I guess I was kind of putting weird connotations on that. So it's just your expanded brain ways of seeing things, which the brain itself is just literally, it's like a multi-dimensional capacitor. You're able to like connect in with all facets of reality and creation omnidimensionally, and see those like visually within your mind. So like your third eye is a big part of that, and within your brain, but within your whole nervous system too, to bring that to your body so you can experience it in like a visual or an energetic way, or a conceptual way of bringing like a structure to things, like a direction of like energetic flow, which is kind of like what the mind does too, as like a masculine, more masculine aspect of the body, but there's both feminine and masculine to the brain too, you know. But yeah, I wonder if capacitor was the right word. I guess like a node, like receiver of energies to be able to conceptualize more things in life in a way.
Well, almost like a transformer. Well, a capacitor, I believe, would be yeah. I think I get what you're putting down.
Yeah, it kind of came through.
Well, Dillon, this has been absolutely amazing. It has been a long time since I've done an interview, so this was a lot of hiccups on my end for sure. But our next interview, if you are down to have another interview for sure, I'd love to dive more into this conversation that we had. You can take into so many different directions. So
yeah, we could be here for all day.
Oh yeah. So if you're all right, let's do another interview, and we'll tailspin off of what we've talked about today for sure. But I wanted to say I appreciate you. Thank you so very much for doing this with me. I think there's a lot of great information that came through here. Mind my blubbering here and there. Yeah, it's all part of the game, right? There you go. I'm not born to be doing this, but I'm doing it anyway. So there we go. But no, I wanted to say I appreciate you, and I'm very grateful for your time, for your energy, and to share your knowledge. I found it was very beneficial, and it connected a lot of dots, especially for me too. So thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're so welcome, brother. I'm so honored to have been here. I truly thank you for bringing me into your sacred space, your spaceship here, basically, in which you're like broadcasting all these teachings to humanity. I don't know, however you want to look at it. Yeah, I thank you for being patient with me too, because I was kind of like getting into the flow of things, and it's been a while for me too with stuff like this, and I've been working to get myself more in balance lately with different layers and levels of my being. So thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
And this is the biggest thing is just getting our voices out there. A lot of if you want to look at an example, David Nino Rodriguez, he's a heavyweight boxer, now YouTuber, where it's just getting a voice out there, because right now people are feeling stuff and they're like, what's going on? So when we start speaking our truths, regardless of how professional or not it may be, it's out there. As long as it's out there, it's going to help at least one person. Who knows? Maybe more. So, no, I very, very much appreciate you. And so, what's the best way for people to connect with you? I had mentioned we did a beautiful meditation earlier. So, if people want to find out more information about you, get in touch with you, have meditations with you, what would be the best way to approach that?
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so right now I'm mostly active through social media. I have yet to be building a website, but I'm definitely getting on that. And so mostly through like Instagram, Facebook was where you can shoot me some messages and just to check out what I'm doing there, which is like a lot of live streams and videos or other shares, talking about whatever I feel come on my heart, really. And where I'm going to get back, especially to be doing those live streams again. It's been a little bit. But yeah, you can reach out to me for like individual services so some of those are like mentorship or like guidance services just to help you be more of your true core self and take like ground in like next level steps or like steps to a next level version of yourself, really. And as well as some healing work where we can go into some meditations and anything that you're wanting to work through in your life right now. I can help you see and heal and clear some of those, like a lot of like inner child traumas and things like that, or doing like its shadow work as well. It's a big thing for a lot of everybody as we continue to awaken more. And that's always like the first and foremost thing is those healings and more of that self-love, like you said. So yeah, mostly Instagram, Facebook, TikTok is another place I've started reaching out more, and you can send me messages there too, I mean, if you find me. But through my names on those are on both TikTok and Instagram is Sovereign Gem Embodiment. On TikTok is Sovereign Gem Embodiment. But yeah, Sovereign Gem Embodiment, and Facebook just Dillon Macy, Dillon Macy.
All right. And I will have these links at the end of the video on the YouTube video, as well as in the description as well. So I'll post those so people can find you through those links.
Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. Well, I just wanted to say thank you again very, very much for your time. I'll stop the recording here, but think for yourself, love yourself, and you'll get there. Thank you very, very much.